I want to introduce you to an author we have on the line. His name is Doug Wead, author of the book Inside Trump's White House: The Real Story of His Presidency. Doug, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great, Paul. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Now, did I hear that the president tweeted about this book, telling everybody to go get it?
He did. He tweeted 3 times.
Yeah,
So I was
he
very
tweeted,
humbled by that.
great writer and historian Doug Wead has written a true, not fake news account of what's going on in Washington and the White House. His new book, Inside Trump's White House, is an incredible description of a very exciting and successful time in our country's history. Buy it. That's the President of the United States. So Doug, tell us, did you have inside access to write this book?
Oh, yes, I did. It was amazing. It took about a year or so before they decided to let me in. And, you know, they've been burned so many times by writers with these fake stories fueled anonymously. And so after about a year, they said, okay, come in. The president just opened the doors. You can have anything you want. You can talk to anybody you want. So I started with the family. I did talk to the hostages. I talked to many variety of people, but I started with his family and with he himself and the family, and I just couldn't get out of the family. It was just too fascinating and interesting. But I did speak to some foreign ministers and Chief of Staff Mulvaney and some White House staff, but mostly the Trumps.
Wow. Man, I bet that is. I bet this book is incredible. Now, it was available November 26th, so I mean it's just out. I'm sure it would make a great Christmas present for folks. And you can find it on Amazon. We're actually, for the video audience, we're showing the Amazon page right now, Doug, to them. So, is it historic? I mean, is the Trump presidency? I mean, I know it's historic, but is he really changing things? I mean, I think he is, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's been the most impactful president since FDR. There's no question about it. You judge presidents on about 120 different criteria, but the economy dominates, and war and peace, and intelligence and communications. Communications, he's transformational with the digital media. We'll never go back from that. Every president will use it. In terms of intelligence, Donald Trump saw what every great economist in the world did not see. They were unanimous. And he turned around this economy. He proved them wrong. And he's the first president in 40 years not to have started a hot war somewhere. He hasn't invaded anybody. We always invade, you know, Panama or Grenada or Bosnia or Libya or somewhere. He hasn't done that so far. We still may have a war with Iran. And the big one is the economy. I mean, Jimmy Carter's one of the most intelligent presidents we've ever had, but he's rated poorly because of the economy. So is George W. Bush, great warrior president. So what he has done to the economy is everything that every social engineer, Hubert Humphrey, LBJ, any of those people ever dreamed of for the poorest of the poor in America has come true under Donald Trump.
Wow, that's incredible. So the lofty ideals, the reason we had this program or that program. I mean, if you look at the unemployment rate, I mean, you look at what's going on with minority populations, black unemployment, the lowest it's ever been. I mean, to your point, Doug, that it is historic. You know,
it is historic, and think of this: there's 7 million unfilled jobs. That's the population of the state of Indiana. That's how vibrant this economy is. And all the other world's economies are suffering while we're just exploding. That's not an accident. That's not luck. And that's how you measure greatness. The gold standard for a president is peace and prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have. It's a shame that we have to lose it to understand and appreciate how valuable it is.
Well, you know, and I know a lot of people have been saying for a long time, hey, we need a president that's a businessman. I think what we have here is a certain type of businessman because, you know, his business is dependent on a thriving middle class. He was in the service industry. And so, you know, I think that's the real reason we're seeing such, economic boom here is because he knows that we have to have a thriving middle class in order to go to some of these places and consume.
Yeah, boy, you've read my book. It's true from day one. That's the difference on everything. Take, for example, the hostages. He was horrified when he learned that this was America's shameful secret, that all these Americans were being held hostage around the world, and it had been kept silent by Republican and Democrat presidencies for 16 years with good intentions. The idea is if it becomes highly publicized, it increases the value of the hostage. More hostages will be taken. It'll be harder to get them free. That was the rationale. But the government bullied news media. You can't report about this. They bullied the families. If you try to get your loved one home on your own, we won't help you anymore. And they didn't keep them informed. And when Trump got in there, he was just horrified. But as you point out, Trump, the businessman, he said, I'll get him back. I'll get him back. He started to squeeze those countries. Erdogan made fun of him. Erdogan of Turkey took a tour of his country, gave speeches mocking Trump. He'd never let Andrew Brunson go home, the American pastor who was held hostage. And Trump took him right off the cliff. Trump just grabbed him and said, let's go, let's jump, here we go. And he practically destroyed the Turkish economy. And Erdogan said, you can have it, go, get out of here. We don't want you. You could take the hostage home. So that's, as you point out, that's a businessman. He sees things that the politicians couldn't see, and he's doing that in foreign policy. He's doing it everywhere.
We're talking with Doug Wead. He's the author of the book Inside Trump's White House, The Real Story of His Presidency. It's recommended by the president to read. What does never complains and never explains mean?
Well, you see in his personality and Trump's personality, and I interview him a lot in the book, and he's very funny, by the way. I guess you know that. But that was a famous quote of Disraeli, the Prime Minister of England. A lot of people compare Trump to Andrew Jackson, and they compare him to Disraeli, who was actually Jewish, had no constituency whatsoever, but became a popular Prime Minister of Britain based on results, based on numbers, what he produced. So that's why some comparing Trump to Disraeli. But that was his famous quote, never explain, never complain, never explain. And it hurts Trump. It's, in my opinion, it's one of his strengths, but one of his weaknesses. So when things go sour, the media starts saying, oh, you lied, you said this, but then you said this, so that's a lie. He won't explain it. He won't get out there and say, well, that's because when I said this, I didn't know that. And he doesn't explain. He just goes on. And that leaves him vulnerable. But it also has been one of his strengths. He doesn't look back. He just keeps plowing ahead forward.
Hey, that's interesting. Yeah, because I have explained for him on this program. You know what I mean? Like when they say this, but I've never actually asked myself. I wonder why he's not more. Why doesn't he go out there and explain much? And I think part of the reason is, Doug, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, for forever the media is essentially the DJ. They set the beat, right? And you got to dance. So if the media's outraged, they're almost like clergy, right? They can condemn you or absolve you. It's an ever rotating scale. But the president, maybe he doesn't explain because he just refuses to let them set the beat. He's going to dance to his own beat.
Well, that's part of it. And part of it, of course, is the media is owned by the big monopolies that he's breaking up. And this is the story that's untold. But we have in this country huge monopolies. They're created by regulation. So they pass all these regulations. They partner with special interest groups, so the special interest groups just love them, and they promote this special interest, whatever it may be. Often it's a good thing. And they get these regulations passed, and that keeps you from starting a company to compete with the monopoly. And then after they've got their monopoly loaded with regulations, a Republican's elected or a Democrat's elected, there's a recession, and it doesn't matter which party, they pass what they call the stimulus bill. The last stimulus bill is 1,000 pages, the size of the Bible, and it's filled with deregulation. So basically they go to these companies and say, oh, we're in a recession, you have to help us write this stimulus bill. What would help you create jobs? So all the regulations that keep you from starting a business are now these big monopolies are exempted from them under the stimulus bill, so they can hire people and grow. And it's a racket. And then it's multinational. Their owners are half European, and they own the media, and they own the companies that sponsor the media, and they don't want it disrupted. So here comes Donald Trump. He's deregulating. He's busting all these regulations so that small businesses can come back and compete. Boeing used to be the only competitor on some of these bids. Now 40 other companies are competing with Boeing, and they don't like it. So the media hates him. He's stealing their game. He's messing up their game. He's breaking the dishes.
Wow, that is certainly news here this morning. I mean, to quantify that is really, really interesting to me. Once again, folks, we're talking with Doug Wead. The new book, it's out now, Inside Trump's White House. You should check it out. Now, I understand, Doug, you just said, you interviewed the president many times. You interviewed Chief of Staff Mulvaney, Jared, and Ivanka. What's Donald Trump Jr. like, though? You interviewed him as well.
Yes, he's so much fun. He's no holds barred. He's a Donald Trump himself. It's so interesting to me that the family, most families, there's a smart one and a dumb one and a sloppy one and a neat one and a poor one and a rich one. But these Trumps, every single one of them are dynamic personalities, and Don is certainly that too. He's no holds barred. And Eric and Tiffany, what a hoot! I'm the only person who's interviewed Tiffany since her father became president. She's just filled. She has the funniest stories. They need to go to Buckingham Palace for that big dinner. They've all got their gowns on and their tuxedos on, and they can't get a motorcade, and they can't get there. So they rent a van, the kind that takes you to your Avis rental car at the airport. And they all pile in the Trump, and they say, "Take us to Buckingham Palace."
That's fantastic. Well, Doug, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the program, spending some time with us this morning, and best of luck to you. Thank you for coming on, and I just want to encourage everybody to go out and get your book.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very much.
All righty. Nice to meet you, sir. Appreciate it.